Salve discipuli, hello 6th grade, and welcome to our Latin video for this week. This week we're going to be learning some Halloween-themed Latin vocabulary. This is in preparation for some games and activities we're going to be doing in class next week. So next week, with the students who are in class, we're going to be playing some Halloween games, but I didn't want you at home to be left out, so I will be providing some activities and games that you can play with your families using these Halloween-themed Latin words. You're not going to need to turn in anything for this. It's just for fun, so you don't need to worry about sending me anything. It's just for you guys to have some fun. I will be posting a separate document that has all of these Latin words listed, so if you want to print that out, and then you can write in the English words as we go along, because there's kind of a lot of vocab words for today, but that's because we needed this many words to be able to play our game. So it's going to be a lot of words, so I provided you a list that has Latin already on it. So if you want to print that out, you can just then write the English next to it as we go through. And then as usual, I will always post the slides separately as well. So let's jump into it. All right, Halloween vocabulary. So they didn't celebrate Halloween the way we do. They didn't celebrate this in ancient Rome, but they did have kind of similar vocabulary, similar holidays. And so they do have quite a bit of Latin words that are kind of related to things that we tend to associate with Halloween. So I've compiled a list of sort of Halloween-themed Latin words that actually did exist in ancient Rome for the most part. So, as usual, you're going to repeat the Latin word after me so you get some practice with that pronunciation. And then, like I said, you can just follow along on the handout that I provided and write in the English. If you want to write out the Latin yourself too, you absolutely can do that. It's up to you. So, our first word, Peppo. Peppo is our Latin word for pumpkin. Umbra. Umbra is going to be our Latin word for ghost. And this was actually where we get the word umbrella from, because umbra can also mean like shade or shadow. So an umbrella gives you a bit of shade. So it's related to that, but we can use it to mean ghost as well. Striga. Striga is going to be our Latin word for witch. Now, they wouldn't have necessarily thought of witches the same as we do with the hats and the noses and the flying on broomsticks, but they did have the concept of a witch or someone who practiced like sorcery and magic, that kind of thing. They did have those in their mythologies. Scopa. Scopa is going to be our Latin word for a broom. Aranea. Aranea is going to be our Latin word for a spider. Vespertilio. Vespertilio is our Latin word for bat, a bat. Monstrum. Monstrum is our word for monster. It's where we get the word monster from. You can see the relation in the spelling of the word. Omen. Omen is the same in Latin as it is in English, right? It means an omen. So typically an omen is like a sign of something. So typically you hear about omens as being like a sign of bad luck in some way. So like a black cat crossing your path was thought to be an omen of bad luck. I have a black cat and she's lovely, so I don't necessarily believe that, but superstition and things like that are related to omens. And we do just get the English word straight from the Latin, we just lose the long mark. Cornix. Cornix is our Latin word for a crow. And then sanguis. Sanguis is our word for blood. So again, not typically used in necessarily a creepy sort of sense, but for Halloween, right, typically you have like the blood dripping or spatter for the writings. It's spooky, so. Calvaria. Calvaria is going to be our Latin word for a skull. Ossa corporis. So this is two words that we're going to be using to mean skeleton. Literally, it means bones of the body in that sort of sense. So ossa is our word for bones, and corporis, corpus is our word for body. So bones of the body, so skeleton in that sense. Cortina. Cortina is our word for a cauldron. Spiritus. Spiritus is our word for a spirit, and we get spirit from this. So, right, it's right there in the Latin, which is nice. Feles ater. Now, we've actually learned both of these words, so hopefully they look familiar. We've got our word for cat and our word for black. So this is a black cat. And Latin does like to have adjectives come after the nouns instead of before them like we do in English. So that's why the word for black is after the word for cat. So this is a black cat, even though in the Latin the words are switched. Luna. Luna is our Latin word for the moon, and this is the same as it is in Spanish, and we get words like lunar from this. Right, the lunar cycles are the cycles of the moon. All right, we've got a phrase here instead of a word. We have requiescat in pace. Now, if you've heard this, if you attend a Catholic church or anything, they typically pronounce this a little bit differently. They say requiescat in pace. That's because church Latin is pronounced a little bit differently from classical Latin. But we are going to pronounce that Z as a hard, pace. And this is going to be rest in peace, right? Rest in peace. And typically we'll see this on tombstones as RIP. And then sepulchrum. Sepulchrum, remember the CH in Latin is going to be a K sound. This is our word for a grave in Latin. Agitare. Agitare is a verb, so we've mostly been seeing nouns to this point. This is our verb that means to haunt, and it's related to our word like agitate. Think of like if something's agitating you, it's bothering you, so haunting in that sort of sense. Terere. Terere is our word that means to scare, and it's related to our word like terror or terrify. Dolus. Dolus is going to be our word for trick. It's like trick or treat. So we've learned dolus, trick, and then their next word is going to be the second part of that, delectatio. Delectatio is our Latin word for treat. So if you want to say trick or treat, you're going to say delectatio aut dolus. A-U-T, out means or. Delectatio aut dolus, trick or treat. Vestitus. We're going to use vestitus to mean costume. So typically this can be used to just mean clothing, but since we're wanting Halloween vocabulary, we're going to use this to mean costume in this sense. Sacrificium. Sacrificium is our word for sacrifice, and shout out to one of my sixth graders in class for providing this when I was having trouble coming up with enough Latin, Halloween-themed Latin words, and they suggested this word. So sacrificium, on behalf of, and I wish I could remember which scholar recommended it, but one of my in-class students recommended to do sacrifice. And we get the word sacrifice from the Latin here. And then potio. Potio is our Latin word for a potion. All right, and that is all of our Halloween vocabulary. I know it's a lot, it's 25 words, and there's a reason why there's 25 words. It's gonna, because we needed that many words for our Halloween bingo game called Winco, V-I-N-C-O, it means I win. So it's Latin bingo for using our Halloween Latin vocabulary. So I will post instructions about how to play that, and you can play it with your family. So you'll be able to do that next week for fun. And again, you don't have to turn anything in. This is just kind kind of a fun, since it's Halloween, some themed Latin lessons for you guys. So email me if you have any questions. Like I said, next week I'll be posting on Google Classroom some activities, and so Halloween bingo, and then I'll post maybe like 1 or 2 other activities you can do in place of our normal lessons for the week. So other than that, I hope you enjoyed learning some Halloween themed vocabulary, and email me if you have any questions, and I will see you next time. Walete te skipuli.